Hey everybody, Joe here, and I promised you guys an edit with adding some clouds with the Lighthouse based on my post on the blog and in the newsletter. And here's a lovely shot of Highland Light. This is on Cape Cod. And I had already done some preliminary straightening in Lightroom. You can see that's why this bottom left is missing. But there's a lot more to do. And there were clouds in the scene. You can see clouds on the horizon. There were some clouds off to the right. But this area here really needs some clouds just to flesh it out. So that's what we're going to do. Now, while we're here, there's one other problem. It's just a lens issue and a point of view issue, and that's the lighthouse itself. You can see how it's kind of tilting a little bit, and it's also distorted. So we're going to fix that first. So to do that, I'm going to go down into my layers panel. I'm going to duplicate the background layer just so I have a pristine copy should I mess with this one. And I'm going to get the lasso tool, and I'm going to draw around the lighthouse itself. And I'm going to copy and paste that onto its own layer. So we have a layer that is now just this. Now to help me keep this thing straight, I'm going to bring up the rulers, which is Command or Control R. So I'm going to draw some lines just so I have a reference as to what truly vertical and horizontal is. I'm going to drag one down from the top too, because we can see right there that this part of the lighthouse, in order to be straight, would have to be straight across there. And I'll bring another one down there so we can see where the problems are. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the warp tool. So I've got the layer chosen with just the lighthouse. Again, see, that's all we're looking at. Choose the lighthouse, and we're going to go to Edit, Transform, Warp. One of my favorite tools for fixing perspective issues in landscapes. So you get these control points. You can drag on any of these corners. You can see I can get kind of weird with it. I have a dancing lighthouse. Let's undo that. But you can also have these bending points right here. You can see in the corners and in thirds. So I'm going to bring this middle section up a little bit to straighten that out. I'd rather my lighthouse be a little taller rather than a little bit shorter. And let's see, on this side, it seems to be leaning to the right a little bit. So let's do that. And then I'm just going to drag the entire thing off to the right. And when I do that, it caused some more distortions. And I think that's starting to look pretty darn good. So let's just hit enter on that and see where we are. I'm going to hide the guides. And let's toggle that on and off, and much better. Now, we caused a little bit of a distortion down here on the top of the building. So let's go ahead and zoom in on there. You can see we've got a break now, right there. And I think the easiest thing is going to be is to just paint that out. So we'll add a brush here, or a mask rather. Get ourselves a brush. I'm going to make it a little bit harder edged. And I'm just going to, in fact, let's work at 100%. I'm going to come right up to the edge here. In fact, to make it easy, I'm going to draw a selection across the edge of the lighthouse. So that way, when I do my brush painting in here, it will only affect that. And there it is. And let's do the same thing here. So we've got this break right here. And I'm just going to come straight across, and perfect. So let's back off, and we can see now we've got the perspective of the lighthouse is fixed. Now there's a slight change in the sky right up in here as well. Let's zoom in a little bit more on that. All right, so here's the lighthouse by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the mask, and I'm going to get myself a softer brush, and I'm going to work at about 40%, and I'm just going to paint around this edge so that it starts to partially mask this off. And this will give it a smoother gradation from the old to the new color. All right, so now we can turn everything else back on, and now you can see that that color temperature change is gone. So now we've got our perspective fixed. We have a nice straight lighthouse. Now let's add in the sky. Oh, while we're at it, let's go ahead and fix this problem right here. I think Content Aware Fill will do a nice job here. I'm just going to use the magic wand. Click in the blank area. You see that has now been highlighted. In fact, let's bring it up and zoom in a bit. Now, to make sure there's not an interface between the previously empty spot and the field here, I'm going to go to Select, Modify, Expand. And yeah, 2 pixels should be enough. I'm just going to expand that selection just so there's a little bit of overlap. So I've got the area selected. I'm going to do a content aware fill here, which I happen to know is function shift F5. Just going to cut to the chase here because that isn't really the purpose of this demonstration. And there it is. We see that that stuff has been filled in. So now if I can turn this layer on and off, you can see. Now we're not going to touch the bottom layer anymore. So just to conserve space, I'm going to merge those 2 layers. Now, if you can also, while you're in here, if you decide you want to add a little bit, maybe you want to break this up a little more, I can go to my stamp tool. I'll pick some spot over here, and I'll just add some flowers that kind of fit in with that. That looks good. All right, so let's back off again so we can see our entire image. All right, so here's our lovely scene. Now, keep in mind, I still have this lighthouse on the other side. So I could merge these, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key, click on Merge Visible. And what that's going to do is create a stack. It's going to take these 2 and merge them into one, but I still have the old ones should I need them. Probably not going to, but just going to leave them there for now. So now we'll get the Magic Wand tool because we need to select the sky. I have contiguous turned off because I want it to select inside the windows of the lighthouse, and does a pretty good job. Hold down Shift to add to the top and bottom. And I'm not worried about this stuff down here or even this cloud. You'll see why in a second. So I'm going to save this selection. Go up to Selection, Save Selection. Just going to call it Sky. All right, now that's saved. Now let's take a look at our cloud layer. We'll deselect what we got here. So here's a cloudscape from the same kind of area, slightly different time of day, but it gave me some nice clouds that I can use in this lighthouse. I'm just going to hit Select All and copy. Then I can turn that layer off, and I'm going to go back into this layer and go back to Select, Load Selection, and if you remember, we saved the sky, and hit OK. So now there's just our sky area selected. And I'm going to go to Edit, because remember now we copied the sky, so it's sitting on the clipboard. Edit, Paste Special, Paste Into, and there's our sky. Now I'm going to hit V, which is the Move tool, or the top icon in the toolbar, and I'm going to start moving these clouds up. What I'm really after is I want these clouds to kind of cut through, wrap through the lighthouse to add some interest to it. You can see the clouds right through the windows, right up through the railing, everything. It looks really cool. Now, we have 2 things going on. One, it's interfering with the clouds over here because of our selection. And 2, there's a slight color difference between this sky and the previous sky. As you can see it right over here. Let's zoom in on that. So we're going to zoom in right on the interface, and you can see right here they're slightly different. So here's a cool trick to make your sky colors match. Go to Channels, and we're going to select just the red, and I do that by clicking on the icon. And we're going to use levels here, so it's just Command or Control L. And we're going to adjust the levels so that these then match in the red channel. So as I bring this left and right, I find it helps if you just kind of squint at it, and you can see it didn't need a lot, but now this interface has disappeared. We're then going to do the same for blue and green. Again, Command or Control L, bring that over a little bit, and it disappears. And then blue, last one, same thing. Let's lighten up blue a little bit just so it disappears. All right, so now we can go back up all the way. You can see now it's pretty much gone. And we'll hit Command 0. Back off a little bit. And we can see now up here it's pretty good. Now there's still some inconsistencies, no worries. So we've got our mask. In fact, let's click on the mask. I can hold down Alt and click on the mask, and you can see where it is. Well, we want to keep these clouds, and I don't want the sky coming through here, although it's not actually on the building anyway. But with the mask selected, you can see it's got its little corners around it. I'm going to get a big brush, and I'm going to work at about 80%. So I just hit 8 on my keyboard, and I'm going to get rid of this stuff on the bottom that I don't need, that I want it to blend into the previous sky. Also, I like this cloud over here, so I'm going to get rid of some of the clouds over here. Actually, I'm going to bring these back a little bit. I actually want them to start to fade away. And I think we're looking pretty good here. So look at that. blends in perfectly. You can't even tell they weren't always there. And come on, admit it. You got to admit that this image looks a heck of a lot better with that little bit of clouds coming through the lighthouse. Love it. Last couple things. I'll show you another little trick. I'm going to add a little bit of intensity to this image. I'm going to click on Merge Visible. I'm holding down the Alter Option key, again, which creates a stack. And I'm going to change it from normal to overlay in the blending modes. Now that makes it really dark. All I want to do is do maybe 20% or so. Just about right. Yeah, in this case, 30%. And you can see it adds a little bit more definition, a little bit more pop to the image. Now, if you don't like what it did in a certain spot, maybe it made the top of the lighthouse a little too dark for you. I kind of like it, actually. No, I do like it. I'm going to leave it the way it is. So we started here with our floppy lighthouse with no clouds, fixed the lighthouse, then stacked it, added our new sky, and then just made a copy of the entire image, changed the blending mode to overlay, and brought it down to 30%. And that's where we went from there to there. And that's a demo for you in Photoshop on adding a new sky and getting the new sky colors to match the old sky. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you again online soon. Bye-bye.